Hello everyone, welcome to lecture number 29 on SWAYAM BHU course on Fundamentals of Economics and Financial Markets. Myself Dr. Anand Singh, and today in this particular video we will discuss regarding the concept of rights issues, and we will discuss in detail about the various SEBI guidelines on rights issue. Now in this particular video I will be discussing with all of you regarding four major key points. Now the key point number 1, we will discuss regarding what are the different kinds of issues which are available before a company through which it can float its securities in the new issue market or primary market. In the second key point, we will discuss regarding what is the exact meaning of rights issue. In the third key point, we will discuss regarding why rights issues they are offered only to the existing shareholder. And in the last segment or key point number 4, we will discuss regarding the various SEBI guidelines in detail which are basically floated by SEBI and they are applicable upon rights issues. Now let us start this particular video. First, what are the various kinds of issues? Now, according to SEBI, basically all the companies whenever they want to enter in the primary market, they can float their securities through four different methods or through four different issues. Those popular issues are: point number 1, it is public issues. Second number 1 is rights issues. Third type of issue is private placements, and fourth type of issue is bonus issues. Now let us discuss in very brief regarding all these four types of issues. Point number 1, public issues. Public issues are basically those kinds of issues which are floated by the company, and the company basically directly invites the general public to subscribe the securities offered by the company. Now, here the company basically offered new investors. In the case of public issues, it can be done by listed companies as well as by unlisted companies. Both kind of companies can float public issues in the market, but such kind of issues are basically offered by the company to the new investors. Why? So that the new investors may subscribe the public issues and they may become the part of the company, or they may become the new shareholders of the company. Now second one is rights issues. Now we will discuss regarding the concept of rights issue in this particular video in detail. So I am just leaving this particular portion at this point of time. Now third issue is regarding private placements. Private placements are basically such kind of offers which are basically made by the company directly to a list of sophisticated investors. Now here one of the most important point is the number of investors who are subscribing the shares of the company. Their number should not be 49, or it should not be more than 49. That means the maximum number of investors in case of private placement should be 49 or less than 49. Private placements are also popularly known as preferential allotments. Now we will discuss this concept, that means the concept of private placements, in detail in my next video. Now the fourth type of allotment or the fourth type of issue is bonus issues. All of us knows that the bonus is basically given by a company from its profit or from its reserves in the form of shares. That means that portion of profit or that portion of reserves which is distributed by the company to its existing shareholders in the form of shares, that is known as bonus issues or bonus shares. Now, it is very much clear that since bonus issues are given out of the profits or out of the reserves, that's why such kind of issues they do not generate fresh capital from the market, and since they do not generate fresh capital from the market, that's why this process is basically eliminated from the kinds of issues in the primary market. So actually there are only three kinds of issues which are made by the company in the primary market in order to raise fresh capital from the market, and those three are public issues, rights issues, and private placements. Now let us discuss in detail about rights issues. First, what is the exact meaning of rights issue? Rights issues are basically those kinds of issues which are offered by a company directly to its existing shareholders so that they can maintain their shareholdings and so that they can maintain their voting rights in the company. Basically such kind of securities are offered by the company to its existing shareholders so that their voting rights are not affected. After the issue, their voting rights are not affected. That's why they are basically given an opportunity to subscribe in the proportion of their holdings, which they are already maintaining in the company. So whenever new securities are floated by the companies in the market, first an opportunity is given to the existing shareholders. Now, let us discuss this particular concept with the help of an example. Suppose there is a company and the name of the company is ABC Limited. Now, the total number of securities which the company has is suppose 100. That means the total number of shares which are floated by the company is 100. Now, suppose Mr. A is a shareholder and he is holding total 10 shares in that particular company or ABC Limited. That means the company has total number of shares of 100 and Mr. A is a holder of 10 shares. That means what is the ownership percentage of Mr. A in ABC Limited? The ownership percentage is 10 divided by 100, that means 10%. 10%, that means Mr. A is basically a owner and he is having a share of 10% in ABC Limited. Now, suppose the company is deciding to float 50 new fresh securities in the market and the company is not offering any single share or any share to Mr. A out of the 50 new securities which are going to be floated by the company in the market. Now, after the issuing of 50 new shares, what will be the total number of shares of ABC Limited? That will be 100, which was earlier, plus 50 new, that means 150. But what will be the share of Mr. A? Now, since no fresh security was offered to Mr. A, that means Mr. A still holds only 10 shares in that particular company. Now, in the new capital structure, what will be the shareholding pattern or shareholding percentage of Mr. A? That will be 10 out of 150 shares, because now the total number of shares of ABC Limited has gone to 150. So, now in this particular condition, in the second condition, when the fresh securities were offered by the company, but they were not offered to its existing shareholder, that means Mr. A. Now, in this particular condition, the ownership percentage of Mr. A will goes below 10% because no fresh securities were issued to Mr. A. Now, in this condition, Section 62 of Companies Act 2013, it clearly, that means this particular section which deals with the rights issue, it clearly states that an opportunity must be given to the existing shareholder so that they can maintain their shareholdings in the company. Now, in this particular example, when ABC Limited floated 50 securities, 50 additional securities in the market and an opportunity was not given to Mr. A, that means basically the company has violated the rules and regulations which are prescribed under Section 62 of Companies Act 2013. Now, according to that provision, an opportunity must have been given by the company to Mr. A so that he may subscribe 10% securities in the fresh issuing also, so that he might maintain his shareholdings, plus he would have been given an opportunity to maintain his voting rights also. Otherwise, when fresh securities were offered by the company and opportunity was not given to Mr. A, then his voting rights, that means voting rights of Mr. A was also affected, because earlier it was 10%, but in the second portion, that means when fresh securities were not offered to him, the voting rights also goes below 10%. So, it's basically a kind of injustice with the shareholders. So, in the rights issue, in the cases of rights issue, there is a SEBI guideline that existing shareholders must be given first opportunity, or they must be given a preference that so that they can maintain their shareholdings and voting rights in the company. Now, let us discuss about the concept of rights issues. Now, what kind of companies basically offered rights issues and what are other terms and conditions? Basically, it is seen that rights issues are floated in the primary market and mostly the listed companies float the rights issues in the market. Why listed companies? Because they are already listed over the stock markets, That means the company is already old company. That's why the rights issues are offered to its existing shareholder. Existing means yes, the company is already existing. Now here the listed companies, they basically float rights issues in the market, and that's why an opportunity is given to the existing shareholders. Now why the listed companies or why the old companies, they basically prefer or why they are going for rights issues? Now rights issues are offered by the existing companies or listed companies because of two major reasons. Now, the first reason is in order to pay their debts, because basically large number of companies have taken their debts. They debts are also an essential portion of their capital. Now, in order to pay off the debts, in order to pay off the long-term obligations upon the companies, basically large number of companies, they might offer or they might appeal their existing shareholder to subscribe new shares, and that's why rights issues are offered in the market. And the second reason is for the expansion of the business of the company. Now the expansion might be in terms of infrastructure or the expansion might be in terms of the product lines, but the fact is for the expansion of the business of the company might issue the rights issues. So the basic two reasons for floating rights issues are: number one, in order to pay the debts of the company, and number two, for the purpose of expansion of the business or expansion of product lines of the companies. Now whenever we talk regarding the rights issues which are basically concerned with the debt instruments, then in that case, according to the SEBI provisions, the company must obtain a credit rating from any credit rating agency. It is essential in case of debt instruments. When the companies are concerning with debt instruments and they are trying to float rights issues, then credit rating must be obtained by the company from any credit rating agencies. Now let us discuss in very brief regarding the various SEBI guidelines related with rights issues. Now point number one, rights issues. Basically, as I had already discussed, that section 62 and section 42 of Companies Act 2013, it basically concerned with, or it is basically concerned with the rights issue or the matters related to rights issues. Now some of the important guidelines are: point number one, rights issues are basically offered to the existing shareholders only. Now they are offered, but whether the existing shareholders will have to purchase, that means whether it is mandatory for the existing shareholders or the existing shareholders have an opportunity, they may purchase, they are entitled not to purchase. That means it is up to their will. If they are willing, then they can purchase. If they are not willing, then they are permitted not to purchase. Now this particular point is clarified from the guideline number 2, that is renouncing facility. One of the most important and very good facility which is provided by SEBI to the existing holders or existing shareholders is regarding the renouncing facility. Now according to this particular renouncing rights, the existing shareholders have a right. They can either purchase the securities or they can either reject the securities. That means they can reject or they can say that we are not willing to purchase the rights issues. Both kind of facilities is basically provided to the existing shareholders, and this particular right is known as renouncing rights. Now under renouncing right, the existing shareholders have an opportunity to renounce regarding the full or part of the securities. Now let me explain this particular thing, and it has forwarded to the SEBI or it has forwarded to the stock market. Then in no condition SEBI permits the company to withdraw the offer letter related with rights issues. Now there is one question, that suppose after announcing the company decide to withdraw the rights issues, then what will happen? In that particular case, SEBI clearly states that if after announcing, if rights issues are withdrawn by the companies, then all the securities of that particular company, the company which is listed over in stock market, then in that particular condition, all the securities of the company shall not be permitted for listing over that stock market for the next one financial year period. That means all the securities which are listed over the stock market, they will not be permitted for the purpose of listing over the stock market for the next 1 year. So withdrawal should not be done according to the SEBI guidelines. If any company is withdrawing, then the SEBI will certainly going to penalize that particular company. Now, let us discuss regarding the SEBI guidelines related to partly paid up shares. Now, in case of rights issues, it is said that, or according to the SEBI guidelines, it is said that all the partly paid up shares must be either made fully paid up or they must be forfeited by the company. Now, let us discuss this particular thing with the help of an example. Suppose a company has offered a share to an existing shareholder and the face value of the share was rupees 10. Now, suppose the company has called first call, second call, third call, and the company has already taken 7 rupees out of the face value of 10. Now, in that particular condition, 3 rupees are still pending with the shareholders. So, SEBI guidelines clearly state that if a company is willing to offer rights issues and all the shares which are held up by the company, those are not fully paid up. That means the shareholders have not fully paid up upon those shares. Then it is the responsibility of the company to make it fully paid up. That means the company will demand the remaining amount from the existing shareholders so that all the shares must be fully paid up. Then only the company will be permitted to offer rights issues. And the second one, suppose any shareholder is not willing to give the rest of the money, or he is not in a capacity, his present conditions are not so that he can give the balancing money, then in that case it is the responsibility of the company to forfeit the securities of that particular shareholder. So, all the partly paid up shares must be made either fully paid up or they must be forfeited by the company as per the SEBI guidelines. Now, let us discuss regarding the appointment of merchant banker. What is the SEBI guideline on related with rights issues regarding the appointment of merchant banker? Now, as per the guidelines, appointment of merchant banker is mandatory in nature. That means all the companies which are going to float their securities in the market, they must appoint a category 1 merchant banker. Now, what is stated regarding the custodian or depositories? It is also mandatory. As per the SEBI guideline, it is mandatory for the companies to appoint a custodian or a depository if it is willing to offer the rights issues. All of us knows that there are two important depositories in our country, that is CDSL and NSDL. Now, the company may appoint either one or both the registered custodians or the depositories of our country. So, but here the fact is the company must make an agreement with the depositories. Now, what is stated regarding appointment of registrar to an issue or appointment of banker to an issue? Now, let us discuss regarding this particular point. Now, as per SEBI guidelines, it is compulsory for the company to appoint an banker to an issue. Banker to an issue basically means that particular entity or intermediary which will receive the application money from the investors. Now, banker to an issue is basically appointed for a specific issue. Now, in this case, the specific issue is basically concerned with rights issue. So, the company will appoint a banker to an issue for this specific rights issue. The banker to an issue will receive the entire application money and a separate account will be opened by the banker to an issue in the name of the company itself. Now, registrar to an issue must be appointed by the company. Now, what is stated regarding appointment of underwriters? All of us knows that the underwriters, they are basically a kind of financial services which gives the guarantee regarding the success of an issue. Now, in the case of rights issue, SEBI guidelines clearly states that appointment of underwriters is optional in nature. It is not mandatory. That means if a company is willing, then it can appoint an underwriter. If the company is not willing, then it is not compulsory for the company to appoint any underwriter. Now, let us discuss in brief what is the procedure of rights issues, what the company is supposed to do in step by step if it is willing to offer the rights issues. Some of the points are: point number 1, the company will decide regarding the cut-off date the specific cutoff date for the rights issues, then the company will prepare draft offer of letter. That means this is not the final offer of letter. The company will simply draft offer of letter. In the third step, after preparing the draft offer of letter, the company will basically call the board of directors meeting. Now, in the next step, the board of directors will approve the draft offer of letter in the company's meeting. Now, finally, when the board of directors will approve the draft offer of letter, it will be transformed into offer of letter. Now, when offer of letter is basically prepared, as it is passed by the board of directors in the meeting, then that particular offer of letter will be dispatched to all the existing shareholders. Now, the offer letter must be dispatched to all the existing shareholder at least 3 days before the opening up of the issues. All the existing shareholders must know about what are the terms and conditions which is specified under the offer letter. So, they must be dispatched at least 3 days before the opening of the issues. Now, in the next step, the offer letter related with rights issues must be open for a minimum period of 15 days and for a maximum period of 30 days. That means the offer letter will be in between a period of 15 to 30 days. It should not be less than 50. At the same time, it should not be more than 30 days. Now, next, all the application money will be received by the banker to an issue. Now, application money may be received in the form of ASBA, that is application supported blocked amount. That is also permitted in the case of rights issues. That might be taken by the banker to an issue. Now again a board of meeting will be called by the company in order to approve all such kind of things after receiving the application money. Then when board of directors will approve all the application money in their meeting, then a list of all the existing shareholders will be prepared who are willing to purchase the rights issues of the company. Now thereafter the past resolutions must be, or the past resolution regarding the allotment of securities must be passed by the company within a day of or within 60 days from the date of receipt of application money. And finally, the share certificate must be issued to all the existing shareholders within 2 months from the date of receipt of application money. Now, in the next video, I will be discussing with all of you regarding the SEBI guidelines on private placements. Now, in that particular video, I will be discussing with all of you on 4 major key points. That is, point number 1, what are the different kinds of issues which are available before a company? Point number 2, what is the exact meaning of private placements? Point number 3, what are the different types of private placements? And in the last segment of that video or my next video, I will be discussing with all of you regarding the important SEBI guidelines related with private placements. So, very thanks for watching this video.